We join the Raquette River between Long Lake and Tupper Lake in New York's Adirondack Park, flowing northward downstream of the falls. We will follow this river for several miles to explore characteristics of a forested alluvial corridor. Many rivers in the northern forest show the characteristic features of forested alluvial corridors, such as river meanders, bars, levees, oxbow ponds, and multiple abandoned channels. These river systems are dynamic, and all of these features, including the active river channel, change over time. These rivers have had almost 13,000 years to rework the sediments in these floodplains and create the features we see today. Forested alluvial corridors can be associated with large rivers and smaller streams, where the flow is through a valley or a flat that allows the river to meander. The entire valley bottom is subject to seasonal inundation when snowmelt and spring storms swell the river, causing it to overflow its banks. The area that is flooded is often called the floodplain of the river. This is a difficult and unstable place for plants to live, and only those well adapted to inundation and ice damage, and often dry summer soils, can survive and thrive. The systems viewed here are forested because they have trees growing on the levees and other features, as opposed to being open without trees. Levees in these forested alluvial corridors are high enough to avoid some of the spring flooding events, or experience a level of flooding that flood-adapted tree species can tolerate. The underlying sediments are typically alluvial, that is, gravel, sand, silt, and clay, deposited and sorted by moving water. The alluvial materials may have been deposited by the river itself during the last 13,000 years, or by meltwater from glacial ice. The river cuts down through the alluvium, and as it does so, it can wander laterally across the valley bottom or floodplain. The constant downcutting and meandering leads to the creation and abandonment of river channels. The active river channel can actually migrate over a wide lateral range, as wide as the valley itself until confined by the valley's bedrock boundaries. The channels the river abandons can hold standing water or can be filled with sediment. Wetlands of varying types can occur in these abandoned channels, including deep water and emergent marsh, fen, and shrub swamp. Oxbow ponds are another floodplain feature. These are typically curved and isolated ponds in the floodplain that were once part of the river channel. Other features, such as bars and levees, are depositional features. Where they occur, and to what extent, is controlled by water velocity. Moving water carries a certain amount of sediments called bed load, and as the velocity of the water slows, the heavier sediments in the bed load begin to drop out and are deposited. Levees are ridges that run parallel to each other and to the river. They are created when annual flooding overtops the riverbank, water velocity slows, and sediment is deposited. Over many years, the levees can grow quite high and can serve to isolate portions of the floodplain from the river. The floodplain of the Raquette River holds thousands of linear feet of levees, dominated mostly by silver maple trees. The silver maple is admirably adapted for periodic inundation.